Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. Now this month we had a theme of coffee and cake, the idea being that you would use either the coffee cup pop-up die set or the cake pop-up die set. I couldn't decide, so I decided to combine them. And you can check out all of my dies at karenburniston.com. So first things first, I made a card, and I chose a 5x6 top fold card, which means I need a piece of cardstock 5 inches by 12 inches scored in the center for folding. And then to that cardstock, I glued 2 pattern paper panels, each one 4 5/8 by 5 3/4. Now I just went stash diving for all of my papers, just things that I found in my stash. I happened to have a couple scraps of paper that looked like good colors to go with that pattern paper, so that's what I chose for my 2 cake tiers. So I need to cut 2 of the large tier pieces and 2 of the medium tier pieces for my cake, and I do not need any of the top tier because I'm going to replace that with the coffee cup. I'll start with the 2 medium pieces, and the first step is to fold down the bottom panel on both pieces, and then those 2 panels are going to glue to each other. Now you can use any kind of strong adhesive. I'm using my fine tip bottle filled with LINECO neutral pH adhesive. We do sell both of those items on our website. And when I add this glue to the panel, I want to make sure that I completely shellac it with adhesive. So that's very important to the cake, that when we glue these panels together that we cover them completely with adhesive. Now I will work all the folds. So each side folds down, and then on those sides there are a couple folds to basically make that little hexagon shape to this cake tier. So I'm working every fold as a mountain fold. That means I'm folding away from myself. And now I'll set that piece aside and do the same thing with the large pieces. Now these ones are just a little bit different across the bottom because instead of 1 panel, it's 3. Each one folds down. And then the middle section, that one actually has another fold that folds it away back underneath the cake. And then I use my glue on the 2 outer panels and glue those together just like I did with the medium tier. And once again, it's important that my glue completely shellacks those 2 panels. Now I start working the folds, and once again, they're all mountain folds. I need to create the sides of the cake using all of those little folds plus the little side tab. Do that on the other side as well. Now the bottom tier is the only one in which the very bottom tab actually folds under as well. That's what the cake sits on in the finished card. Switching to the coffee cup pop-up set, which is the other pop-up die I'm using, I will cut the cup itself out of a pattern paper, and then I've found a piece of corrugated cardstock to use for the sleeve. White cardstock for the lid, and I'm just brushing that with a little bit of tan ink before adding it to the coffee cup. There are just a couple of fold lines in the pop-up coffee cup, the little tab on the side and then the other side of the coffee cup, and then there's 2 little tabs at the bottom that fold outward like little feet. By working those folds first, it makes it easy to see the sides of the cup to line up my sleeve. It almost looks like I had this idea when I was designing the coffee cup because the tab is so close to the right size to go down through the slot of the medium tier of the cake. But unfortunately, those tabs are just a little bit too wide. So I'm going to take my scissors and just cut a little shave off of each side of those tabs. That's how little it needs to be trimmed for those to fit down through those slots on the medium cake tier. So first I just need a strong adhesive on the side tab of the coffee cup and then just bring the back around and attach it. So the tabs are also just a little bit too long because inside the cake they need to stop short of the fold line. So I just trimmed a little bit off. I didn't do any measuring. It's just a matter of making sure that the tab itself, once it goes through the slot, can fold down and glue inside the cake and not cross that fold line. So then to attach it permanently, I will add some glue to the tab, making sure that it's all the way down so I don't see any tab on the outside of the cake, and then just press it to glue inside that cake tier. And as you see, it's staying away from the fold. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the back tab. So it goes down through the slot on the medium cake tier, add some glue to the tab, fold it over and glue it inside the cake. Okay, so now I can complete the attaching of the side tabs of my medium cake tier. So that's just a matter of adding some glue to the tab and attaching it to the other side. Easiest to do that by flattening everything out until the tab just lines up with the other side of the cake tier, and then just press those together. And now I'll turn that around and repeat that process on the other side. Okay, so that completes the assembly of the medium cake tier with the coffee cup attached on top. As the medium cake tier opens, then the coffee cup will expand. Now, attaching the medium tier to the large tier is just like normal cake assembly. So the tab goes down through the slot, you get one side all the way down, and then you can click the other side in. So it should be pretty tight, but I am using pattern paper for this instead of cardstock. So I am going to do my trusty tape trick. So what I mean by that is after getting my tab all the way down through the slot, I just take a piece of regular old Scotch tape and go across the tab and onto the bottom of the cake tier. And that just keeps everything in there nice and snug so it cannot pull back out again. Go to the other side. I need to press everything down through the slot until it clicks. You can see that it's pretty tight, so it may not be necessary to do the tape trick, but it's really hard to do it after you've completed the assembly, so far better just to have that little extra bit of insurance with that tape inside the cake. Okay, zooming through this next part, which is exactly like we did with the middle tier, some glue on the little side tab and attach it to the other side of the cake. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, just one last bit of assembly before this can go in the card, and that is to make the two little bases that the cake sits on. And that's what these final little tabs are for. They glue to each other, just like this, and that creates that little foundation for the cake. So to do that, you add a little glue. I usually add it into the larger tab, then collapse everything down, fold over the small tab to attach to that glue. And then I turn the cake around and do the same thing on the other side. So just figuring out in the flat position about how wide the small tab is, because that's where I would want to stop my glue. And then just fold it over and onto that glue to attach it to that wider tab. Okay, so there we have it. We have the two bases for our cake to sit on in the finished card. So with the cake flattened, I use those little protruding areas to make sure that they're lined up right in the fold of the card. But what gets glued is actually the little T-shaped tab area, that one that we just assembled. So that's where the glue goes. And then making sure everything's just right in the fold of the card, I carefully close the card against that exposed glue. Then I open the card and do the same thing on the other side. So the glue goes in that little T-shaped tab area, then I close the card against it. And then once that glue sets up, I can open the card. The cake is going to expand in the card. In this case, we have a coffee cup on top of the cake, and that's also going to expand. So I'm treating the two tiers of the cake just as a platform for my coffee cup. I'm not really decorating it as a cake. So when I go to add the frosting pieces to the cake, I'll actually turn them upside down and let those scallops raise up higher than the edge of each tier. That makes them look more like a molding than they do like frosting. The coffee beans that I used on the bottom tier, those come with the coffee cup pop-up, but the small little mug that I used on the medium tier is one of the coffee charms, which is a great add-on. If you like that coffee cup pop-up, I definitely recommend that you get the coffee charms as well. I recently cleaned an area of my office and found all sorts of treasures, like this darkroom door ribbons rubber stamp, and I just had to use it. I grabbed my Catherine Pooler inks, I used Aquatini and Lime Rickey, and I stamped all those ribbons and then cut them into individual pieces. And my greetings are a combination of a Funny Bones stamp and then a Thanks a Latte came off of this Impression Obsession set. So for the main greeting, I used a circle from the Snowman Twist Circle die set, and then for the Thanks a Latte that will go on the coffee cup, I just used one of the circles that comes with the coffee cup set. And by combining those circles in the coffee cup set along with one of my stamped ribbons, I made this little embellishment for the front of the coffee cup itself. Now, as far as adhering that embellishment to the front of the coffee cup, I want my tape or glue just right up the middle of the embellishment, just in a vertical line. And that way, when I attach that to that curved coffee cup, the embellishment will stay straight while the coffee cup itself can curve. There is a coffee stirrer die and a little circle die in the coffee cup pop-up set. You can combine those two to make a stirrer or a little stopper that can go at the top of the cup. For this card, I only have room for just the top little circle to be above the cup and stay within the card. And I will also use a full stirrer on the base of the card. There is an optional feature with the coffee cup pop-up card, which is that it has clips on the back of the coffee cup that will hold a standard size gift card. And you can slide that gift card in, and then depending on the width of your card is how far out it can extend. So I'll just slide it back in until it's hidden by the card in the closed position. So I've finished out the card's interior back behind the coffee cup. I added another one of those coffee charms and some more of the circles and stamped ribbons, a few random coffee beans. Now, my favorite way to design the fronts of my pop-up cards is just to use my leftover materials and create a simple lead-in using the same colors and styling as the card's interior. Now, I thought something fun for the front of this card would be to replicate the look of the pop-up, but in a small, flat version. So that's what I did by using the coffee charms for the coffee cup on top. This card measures 5 inches by 6 inches in the closed position, so it'll fit nicely in an A7 envelope for mailing. And then this is optional, but I like to do it when I've added a panel to the front of the card. I'll sometimes just add a panel of my leftover cardstock to the back of the card too, and that really balances both sides of the card then, so then when it's open on the table it will just lay nice and flat. So this was just a fun combination of 2 different pop-up dies into a different look. I definitely encourage you, if you want to try it, to just swap out the colors and the styling and just make it your own. If you need supply links, they are in the description box below this YouTube video. There is also a link to the blog post, and on that blog post you will find photographs of my card, and you will also find links and photographs of the design team's cards for this month's Coffee and Cake Challenge. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.